You're listening to the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, where each week we have a conversation with everyday martial arts practitioners. From the first motivation to train, martial arts enriches our lives and becomes a lifestyle. Welcome to the individual stories of those martial artists living that lifestyle. You are listening to the abbreviated version. For those of you checking this out on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Full-length versions of this podcast can be subscribed to at our Patreon page, is www.patreon.com/malmag. Or individual full-length episodes can be purchased at our Gumroad page at malmag.gumroad.com. Before we begin this week's program, I would like to remind you to check out martialartslifestylemagazine.com to see articles on the martial arts. Click on the store tab to find products for the practice of Southeast Asian martial arts, featuring Timmy B's brand sticks. Check out the courses tab, currently featuring a course on the Dos Manos method of the Filipino Martial Arts. Also check out our Places to Train page, featuring top quality martial art academies from around the world. And of course, check out our events page for seminars and events coming up around the world. To see your school listed in our Places to Train page or your event on our events calendar, contact us at malmagonline@gmail.com. This week I get on Zoom and I connect to close by Phoenix, Arizona, and I talk with my good friend Chris Dunnett. We talk about how he got into martial arts by winning a month of karate lessons in a drawing, how early Steven Seagal films and the Jeff Speakman film The Perfect Weapon in particular inspired him to get back into training karate, having two different yet complementing paths to perfect, and much more. Sit back and enjoy. Welcome to the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast. And today I'm connecting to Phoenix, Arizona through Zoom here. And I'm talking with an old friend from many circles, total rock and roll guy like me, but even more so. Just opened a school recently, so we got quite a bit to talk about. And actually, I just saw him a few days ago at the Silat camp. So Chris Dunnett, welcome to the show.
Hi there. A lot of people don't know this, and Joe used to get it wrong all the time, but he's got it now. It's actually pronounced Dene.
Dene. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've been getting it wrong all this time too. You know, we don't take, you as a dainty French kind of sounding guy. Because you're a big human like me.
Yeah, we've always pronounced it Dene in my family. So
okay.
But yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Chris Dunnett. So let's get it right from here on out. That's Tim's fault, and we're moving on from Tim's fault. Oh boy! So Chris, why don't you tell us how you got started in martial art training?
It was kind of interesting, really. I'd always been fascinated by it, and a couple friends of mine knew. And one of my bands, I remember commenting to a buddy at the gym that we had done a show, and it's like the first show I'd done in a band in like a long time, and I was like really sore the next day from running around on stage and doing things. And he said, "Well, let me show you how to stretch out properly. I've been in martial arts for a long time, and I can show you how to stretch, so that you don't get sore the next day." And I was like, "Wow, that's great. I've always been interested in martial arts." And he did Taekwondo, and he showed me some stretching stuff, and I'm pretty sure that about a year or so later, he put my name and phone number in one of those boxes that you see at like Subway restaurants and stuff. Win a month of martial arts and I don't know for sure, because unfortunately, right about that time he went into the service, and unfortunately we never maintained contact. And this is way before the internet. So I know his name is Jerry Welch. So if he's out there somewhere and he did that, I would love to thank him to this day. Because randomly I get a call from a karate school in Cincinnati where I was living and grew up. And they said, "I want a month of karate classes." And I was like, "Oh, okay. How'd this happen?" And because I'm like, I didn't put it in there, but I figured that was probably who did it. So I went into the school and had a really good first class and a second class. And I really lucked into this. And I bring this up because I've had this happen several times where I've lucked into wonderful teachers. And my teacher was Okinawan, and he's actually really well known in the Okinawan karate world, especially with the Bo staff.
Oh wow!
Yeah, Shion Kiyoshi Nishimi. Yeah, he's from Okinawa. He's an Okinawan, and I really got lucky with him as a teacher. One, being authentic, too. He's just
Right.
a martial artist. I mean, anybody that's known or seen him, they'll tell you, like in the US, he's one of the top two with the bow staff. His staff work is just amazing. Um, so I really got lucky with that. But it was a weird situation because I was doing music so much at that time between teaching guitar and playing in a couple bands that unfortunately I didn't really have time to commit to it at that moment, even though I really, really liked it. So I won a free month and I was only able to go like 3 or 4 times. They were all on Friday nights because it was the only night I didn't have a gig and wasn't teaching guitar. Um, so unfortunately, I couldn't continue. But then about a year later, it's funny because a buddy of mine at the time, we were watching a movie and I can't remember, but like I give both equal credit. Um, Early Steven Seagal films,
Hmm.
like Above the Law, Hard to Kill, and The Perfect Weapon with Jeff Speakman, that opening scene where he's
Ah, yes.
that's just like beauty in motion. And I remember sitting there, we were watching one of the two movies, and my buddy looks at me and he goes, "Man, wouldn't you give your left nut to be able to fight like that?" And I jokingly, replied, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And then I thought for a moment, like, wait a minute, I don't need to sacrifice a scrotum. All I need to do is just sign up and go train. So so then that following Monday, I called that karate school. I said, "Look, my schedule's still whacked out, but I want to do this. I need to, start coming in and stuff." So I started going there regularly and started training in Shorin-ryu karate, and did that for. I got the second degree black belt in that over the course of like 12 years, and that was my
Wow.
main in my background. But the funny thing is, in the interim of that, I was a brown belt, and I remember seeing that Dan Inosanto was going to be at a seminar in Indianapolis, and I had no idea what Filipino martial arts were. I had no idea what Jeet Kune Do or Silat was. I just knew who he was, and I was like, "Well, I need to go to this because I don't know what I'm going to learn, but I know it's going to be good." And it's funny because, like, I was a brown belt in karate at that time, and a brown belt, you're not an expert by any means, but I'm like, I know some things. I've been at this for a few years. I kind of know what I'm doing. I should be okay. And I went into that seminar. Unfortunately, I only signed up for one day
Hmm.
because I felt like a kindergartner in a college calculus class. I mean, everything so over my head. And fortunately, I had a buddy there. It's funny because I didn't even know he trained in martial arts, but he was there, and him and his girl helped me out a bit. But literally, it was just so over my head because I never held sticks before, I never did any blade, never did any Silat type stuff. Um, so literally, I took a pair of sticks that were borrowed because I didn't know what to bring. I'd never been in one of these. Went over in the corner and I just worked umbrella six like the entire day. So like that's the only
Wow.
thing with was umbrella six, but I felt like I got one thing out of it because the rest of it I just couldn't retain it. It was just but I was like, oh my God, I need more of this. This is just incredible stuff. And so when I got back to Cincinnati, I started calling like every other martial arts school that was not karate that I thought might host him. And I found that Reed Academy, they said, oh yeah, we bring at that time they referred to him as Sifu. We bring Sifu in, every year for Father's Day weekend. I was like, well, send me put me on your mailing list or whatever, or call me something. I need to know about this. So I started training with Guru once a year in every Father's Day weekend in Cincinnati, even though I was still in Shorin Karate. And then I found out he was also in Dayton, Ohio in December at Brown's Institute. So then I was getting to train with him twice a year at seminars. So I did that for several years, and that's how I kind of started to dabble into the Filipino martial arts, the JKD, and the Silat. And through that, I met someone you might know. He's pretty well known. He because everybody just knows him. But Mike Casto, who ended up becoming a really really good friend of mine over the years. I started getting together with him in training in Dayton, and through that met his teacher Guru Ken Pinnell, who you may know, and then through him met Jeremiah Lovejoy, who I know you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they're real good friends too. And I started training with all those guys in Dayton, doing all this. And then around I think 2004, I was getting all this great information between training with those guys and going to seminars with Guru, and I just realized I needed some more structure. So I called up the Reed Academy because they had kind of gotten to know me over the years from me coming to all the seminars there, and I just said, "Hey, I need to start training here. I want to sign up." And one of the guys was like, "Well, you want to come and take a class first and see if you like it?" I'm like, "No, I know what you guys do. Just sign." Yeah.
You're like, I've sampled the samples.
Right, exactly. So I trained there from about 2004 or 5 to 2008 when I moved to Nashville, Tennessee for music reasons. Um, and so in Nashville, I was doing a lot of training on my own because I didn't have a place to go to regularly. Fortunately, I met some other guys kind of in that same world, and we would get together and train. And then one of the other good things, though, is it allowed me to still go to Cincinnati when Guru was there, but then also I
Right.
was close to Evansville, Indiana, and so I'd already known Jeff Westfall and Brian Rideout. Um, so I started going there, and then also Atlanta because he would be in there twice a year, April and September. So I started going down there. So I was getting to train with Guru a lot more being in Nashville, even though I couldn't train regularly with other people at a school. Um, and then like one year, I think Right Out and we made a bunch of road trips. I went to Waterloo for a seminar, I went to Louisiana for a seminar, Michigan for a seminar. So it was like on tour with Guru Inosanto.
Yeah, it's
uh,
right. Yeah, the whole Midwestern tour.
yeah, yeah. So and then in the interim of all this, a friend had recommended a guy named Kevin Taylor. And so he
Right.
Green and he was an hour away. And so I went up and I was blown away by his knowledge and just him as a teacher and a person in general. And I started training with Kevin. And at first it was only once every couple months. And then I just made the commitment. I was going up there 2 to 3 times a week, driving an hour each time in the day, training with him in the day. So I did that for a couple years actually until he moved to Louisville. Now unfortunately he's since passed away,
Right.
um, but yeah, so again, I've been very, very fortunate, sometimes by happenstance, sometimes by design, that I've gotten to train with just some incredible, teachers. And then through that, I wouldn't hear about, these other guys like Sifu Larry Hartsell. I got to train with him a few times. Guru and Asante would talk heavily about Dr. G, and I found out Dr. G was coming to Cincinnati, so I got to train with him a few times. Um,
Right.
so I've just been very, very lucky. I never once take any of that for granted. The people in the martial arts world that I've gotten to train with, and then other people too. I've trained with Hockheim, Helson Gracie, and some other people and stuff. So it's just been a incredible, incredible journey, really.
Yeah, no doubt. It's funny when you went through all that, it made me realize just how rich the state of Ohio is
Hmm.
in
Yeah,
martial art people. Like it's just crazy
it
thick
really is. Yeah, there's a
in
lot of
talent.
really good there. Yes, for
I
sure.
mean, not only from this the stuff that we're currently doing, those kind of circles, which are big, and encompasses many arts, but also I know that the early time period when you're training and say like the Okinawan karate, which was big. That's what I started in Illinois as well. And so like there was a lot of just top notch, say Shorinru, because that's what you're doing, right? Shorinru
Right. Yeah.
practitioners, and Shorinru. I don't know how much you kind of delved into the history of it, but it's got like
Actually.
basically four branches. Three are pretty major
Right.
branches, and then a fourth branch, and those are all pretty well represented throughout the Midwest,
Hmm.
which is just crazy, and it's like crazy good talent, crazy good instructors, and then with that you're obviously going to have good taekwondo, good everything else that's going to come along with it, and when you really dive into it, you've got a big chunk of the point competitors that were champions coming from the Midwestern area, and then even the PKA kickboxers, the early PKA kickboxing stuff. You had a lot of really good talent in there. So it's just, it's funny to just think about how thick the area was
Hmm.
in all of that.
Yeah, yeah, and it's bizarre because again, you have all the karate schools in Cincinnati. I happen to get the one who was actually Okinawan and world renowned.
Yeah,
It was just, and it's funny because probably like a lot of people at the Asano Academies, I'm sure there's some students that don't realize the magnitude of what they're getting at first. You know,
yeah,
and it was the same way with me. I didn't realize that till I'd been in it a while. I was like, wow, I really, really got lucky. I mean, I knew he was good because he was, and I knew I liked him a lot as a teacher too, which is very important. Um, so yeah, but it's just one of those things. You just when you're in this little circle, you don't realize what all's out here and
right,
how important this really is. So that
exactly,
was again just a fluke thing that really I never take that for granted. I just got really really lucky with that. And then as I
absolutely,
said from there, a lot of times it would be me pursuing things like going to the Inasano seminar that I went to, and and then hearing about other people like Larry Hartsell, Dr. G, and Hockheim, and just anybody else that I thought was a notable. I wanted to train with to see what they had to offer.
Yeah, isn't that an interesting thing about the circles? It's like the people that are involved in the Inasanto thing, we all are willing to travel long distances repeatedly to just do some stuff where, and I'm not saying that, other people aren't motivated that, because I mean, obviously there are people we probably knew, I knew in the karate world that said, okay, now I'm going to Okinawa and studying for a bit. I mean, that's a hell of a trip, but
Right.
it's not like you got involved with a local school, most people, and then that was kind of their world, where yeah, we got involved in local schools, but then we saw this and went, okay, now I'm traveling, now I'm going far away, or I'm going across town. And even say like here in LA, there's a lot of traffic
Oh yeah.
between, even if
Yeah.
something on the map looks like it's 16 miles, holy shit, in the travel, in rush hour times, that's a lot of travel time. And we have
Right.
people regularly traveling that distance, and that's like the valley, and then we've got people that are coming up from San Diego, and that
Well, yeah, I
once a
come
week,
out from
or in
Phoenix.
from, and you come in from Phoenix, yeah, like once a month, and then we have some guys that are driving in from Victorville. So I mean, these are distance, and it's common, and that's just it's a real interesting look at how infatuated we are with the thing to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and also how much we value it, that we
Yeah,
know to get
exactly.
that type of thing, that type of instruction and material, that we have to travel for it, and that it's worth it to us to make that sacrifice and do that. Sure.
Absolutely. So I wanted to ask you a little bit, because I'd love to just kind of get an insight on it.
Sure.
You trained with Kevin Taylor, and I knew Kevin through Larry, but I never got
Right.
a chance to actually face to face meet him. I've talked to him like you and I are talking, on FaceTime type of thing. I've corresponded with him. I've talked with him on the phone, but I never got a chance to actually face to face meet him and train with him. So, what was it like training with Kevin? What kind of things did you do? What was he like?
Oh, it was fantastic because I went in the daytime, and so a lot of times, I mean, it was just me and him,
Oh,
or if it was,
wow.
yeah, or if someone else, there'd be another kind of semi-regular after a while, Jake. He was rolling the Dog Brother stuff, and so sometimes Jake and I'd work on stuff together, or Kevin would have him work on stuff and then work with me, or there'd be someone else who was maybe a beginner, and I'd kind of help Kevin show the beginner some basic things, and then we work on stuff. So I got a lot of one-on-one time with him, and it was fantastic because I mean he was really so knowledgeable. I blown away at what all he knew, and how good he was at breaking down. It's one thing to know this stuff; it's another thing to be a really great teacher at it, and he was definitely
Yeah.
both. Um, but it really he simplified a lot of things for me because again, when I came to him, I had all these random bits of material. I had some good
Right.
structure. Read Academy. That's one thing I really like training there is that they put things into a very systematic, detailed progression. And so it was really nice because okay, here's the four of these, here's the five in this series or whatever. Whereas I'd see these things at seminars and it'd kind of be all over the place. But so I got some real good structure there, but then I had advanced past that and trained so much on my own that again I was getting all these other random bits of more advanced stuff, and I had a hard time making heads or tails out of it and stuff. And Kevin really, really was great about like simplifying things, and it in hindsight, some of it seems like, duh, why didn't you see that? But when you're learning things, sometimes, we take things a certain way. Like you learn a Sinawali pattern and you think, okay, well, this is how this pattern is done. And then you see someone else do it slightly different. You're like, wait a minute, they're doing the same thing, but it's a little different. They're doing a low strike instead of a high strike here. So, which is it? And at the end of the day, he would say, well, it doesn't matter because all you're doing is practicing the angles and stuff. And it doesn't matter the order you put them in. And he had a really really great warm up routine for stick where it basically covered like the whole as Guru refers to it now, the inward backhand series. It pretty
Right.
much covered all that, although Kevin only did 6 of the 8 because 2 of them are basically other variations just on a different beat. So he only
Hmm.
covered 6 and he had it arranged so that each one covered a high and a low angle and stuff. So basically he took like, I forget how many variations the guru says there are, but Kevin put it all into like this simple little package that you practice this one warm up, you're pretty much covering all the variables in one. And so he was really, really good about doing that. And it got me thinking about, okay, what really is the essence of this drill? What is the main thing? He cleaned up a lot of other things for me too, because like some things like just even hubad, I would see people, do a ton sow for the block. I'd see a bong sow for the block. I'd see this for the, I'd see all kinds of different variations. I'm like, well, which one is it? He goes, well, they're all correct. And here's why you do this. And here's why you do this. And here's why you do that. And then when I understood the why, it's like, oh, okay. I understand now. Okay, well, I prefer this way. I prefer the BOG. And he showed me why that was good, because then they're all eye jabs. It's like, that's brilliant. Love that. But I've been shown some things like so many different ways through seminars and other teachers. And so again, I wasn't like trying to think, okay, one has to be wrong, one has to be right. But I was like, okay, well, which way should I do it? Because they're telling me to do it this way. They're telling me to do it this way. And, Kevin would just, hone in on that and explain the whys and the ramifications of both, and, and stuff. And he was just really good about that, because he knew so many different things, and just, again, simplified things and showed me the why and the essence behind it all. And because we got so much one-on-one time, a lot of times I would just come to him and he'd say, what do you want to work on today? Oh, I got this question, this question, this question. We just go down my list of questions and stuff. I said, I was working on this, but I wasn't sure, should it be this way? And so, again, I got really, really lucky, because I had never heard of him before. Just a friend of mine in Asheville I trained with had gone up and trained with him a couple times and said, hey, you should check this guy out. And yeah, and I was just, again, blown away by his knowledge, his ability, and just him as a teacher. And again, he was just a great person. He was real into music and had a theater background and stuff. So we would talk about music a lot of times, before or after class. And yeah.
I'm going to say you've had some very good friends around you. One dropping your name in a contest box, and another one, other people just saying, "Hey, go here, check this person out. Go here, check this person out." You've had some good people around you that have really steered you correctly, I think.
Yeah, I absolutely have. I really have. And again, I don't take that for granted. That's been a great thing. But I think it's one of those things that one of the biggest pieces of advice everyone gets when they move to Nashville is don't be a dick, so, seriously.
That's good. No matter where you are, that's a good one.
But, right, exactly. So
never lived in Nashville, so I'm curious as to why specifically don't be a dick in Nashville.
Well, because even though there's thousands of musicians, it's a small community. And
yeah.
If you fart at noon, by 1 o'clock, everyone in town knows it.
Sure. Well, it's kind of be careful on your way up, because you don't want to be kicked on your way down, kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. Exactly. So, I've tried to always be a good person. And I think, that's one of the ways, hopefully, that some of that comes back to me, is that people do, refer other people to me or recommend, me for things or whatever.
Right.
And, like you said, I would have never heard of Kevin Taylor, my buddy in Nashville, not recommended him. And I'm really glad that, he did, for sure. So,
yeah. And it's funny, you say that about, being a good person with it. You would hope that this martial art thing develops that. It doesn't seem to inherently necessarily do that, because there's a lot of characters. We can say that out there. But right. I think it can be, the atmosphere counts, right? I think the people that you're doing it with, the instructors that you keep, probably are very key in that aspect of whether you develop what we would consider good character or not, I suppose,
Yeah, I absolutely 100% agree with that, because it's funny, because a lot of people think that martial arts does naturally make you a better person. And there are definitely elements of
it. And this concludes the abbreviated version of the podcast. Please consider supporting the program by going to www.patreon.com/MALMAG and subscribing to the show. You can also purchase this individual episode or any individual episode at our Gumroad page. That's malmag.gumroad.com. Thank you for listening to this episode with Chris Dunnett. Coming up next week, I sit down at the Inosanto Academy and I have a fantastic conversation with my dear friend Clarell Pope. Our Malmag online store at martialartslifestylemagazine.com has a full selection of Timmy B's brand sticks for FMA and Krabiker Bong. Timmy B's brand now selling in Japan as well. Beautiful Timmy B's brand shirts and Dos Manos shirts are available We also have sarongs, molongs, and wooden training knives. An online course in the Dos Manos method for FMA is available under the Courses tab. More courses coming soon. Check out the Places to Train tab to find schools near you, and click on the Events Calendar page to see what seminars and events are happening all around the world. And of course, visit our main page for articles on the martial arts. Music by Arthur J. Martial Arts Lifestyle Magazine and the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast are trademarked and copyrighted by TNT LLC.